Okay, well, good morning to folks on the West Coast. Good afternoon to folks on the East Coast. And hello to everybody who's anywhere in between those coasts. We are so excited to have you here today. And for the sake of time and making sure we use our time most effectively, I'm just going to get us started. So, just a little reminder of why we're here today, and that's to talk about honing your niche to benefit both your practice and your clients. We have an incredible guest speaker with us today, Micah Miller, who I can't wait to have introduce herself. She is so skilled at what she does, and we're really lucky to have her. My name is Carrie Scott. I work at Spruce Health. You may have seen me on one of these before. I do them every month, and I'm just serving as the moderator today. So I'm going to go over just some very light housekeeping. This session is being recorded. So if you miss something, if you need to drop off, if you want to revisit something later, all of this will be captured and I'll be sending a link to the recording later today. Also, we encourage you to ask questions. Please ask away and drop them into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We've disabled chat because it can get a little noisy, but the Q&A is there for that very reason. So by all means, ask the questions as you think of them because Micah is going to be taking them as we go. She loves an interactive session, and the more you have to ask or weigh in on, the more she is there to receive it. And if we get a lot of questions, we'll save some for the end as well. But with that, let's get into it. I'm going to just go really quickly over what Spruce is in the event that we have some new folks with us today. So, at a glance, here is how Spruce works. It is a HIPAA-grade cloud-based communication platform, and it integrates a business phone system with texting, faxing, and telemedicine, ultimately enabling you to optimize your care collaboration and streamline your interactions with clients, and basically getting greater oversight over both your workflows and your comms with your care team and or clients. So that's it in a nutshell. If you want to learn more, I encourage you to check out our website after this call. But this is just not why we're here today. We're here to get to know Micah. So let's keep going with that. I'm going to pass the torch. I'm going to turn my video off so that you can just give your full attention to Micah. And then I'll weigh in as those questions come in. So, Micah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Carrie, for having me and everybody for registering. I'm excited about today. So please interact. I love that.
Great.
Well, here's the fun part, right, where I talk about myself. But I am Micah Miller. I am a licensed professional counselor. I am also a supervisor, over 15 years of experience. I have a group practice. We have over 12 employees that work for me. I have been in business since 2017 as a group practice. We have won awards. I am also an international speaker, so I've collaborated with organizations such as the Junior NBA, the Power of Girls, That Yourself Do It Anyway Summit. And I also offer business coaching as well. So I do help entrepreneurs, particularly with inner child healing and how that relates and how that actually shows up in entrepreneurship, especially if you're going from a solo practice to a group practice. That is when your inner child steps forward and really gut punches you. So I love that work. I help people scale their businesses and really find their authenticity in their work so they can really shine through in their marketing. Um, so today we are talking about, I'm just going to go back to the original title, Hone Your Niche to Benefit Your Practice and Your Clients. So one of the things that I hear a lot from people is, I don't know how to niche. I'm so good at everything. I want to do everything. I learned everything. And they have a very hard time doing that. So I don't know. I can't see the questions, but Carrie, just chime in there. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to sign up for this webinar today, because there has to be some struggle with niching. And you can even kind of give us an idea about what you're thinking about niching as well. But niching can be hard when you are good at a lot of things, when you do like a lot of things. Sometimes, we seek help in niching because we feel like, we serve too many people and we want to narrow it down, or we feel like we can't really market correctly because we don't know the direction to go to. You like couples and you like kids, and how do we market both of those? And a lot of times you feel like niching down because you actually feel disconnected from your why. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to come on today and what your issues have been with niching.
And don't be shy, you guys. Use that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Just drop in a couple of thoughts and I will read them aloud. So Valerie is saying that she works with adults, specializes in anxiety and depression, change management, but doesn't everybody. So how does she niche down from there? Let's circle back on that. Uh,
Okay.
Vanessa is saying, I'd like to have a treatment focus to be able to specialize in that and take the appropriate trainings, market to that population. We're getting some good folks weighing in. Patricia wants to learn how to market her niche, get more private pay clients by selling expertise and to do the kind of therapy she likes most.
Mm,
Lexia keeps niching down, but then feels like she's causing people to be missed. I'm also unsure about niching based on what or how I do it versus who I serve. Carly's saying too many interests, don't know what's nice enough. Um, Carla is struggling with the decision to niche and new to the career, but passionate about working with women. Amy hears that it's good to do for your practice, but hasn't had burnout or anything, so hasn't done it yet. Uh,
okay.
Jeffrey said you hit the nail on the head. I like several niches, but I don't want to appear scattered. So you're getting a lot of folks kind of coming in with what you were suggesting. They're a little unsure. They're a little bit all over the place. So I think this webinar is going to be
Perfect. The good thing is I'm going to answer all of those questions. So I'm glad that they are aligned. Okay. So niching. So what is niching? What is it really, right? People feel like niching is limiting yourself. Niching is not limiting yourself. Niching is not picking a box. Niching is not just a marketing strategy, right? Niching is really declaring who you do your best work with and why. Right. I think someone mentioned that they really want to work with a certain population and passion, but they're afraid of leaving someone out. Right. The thing about niching is, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna go down my own street. When I started niching, I realized people will come anyway. So even though I may work with this particular population, people of other populations and other things still came. So it's a matter of, it doesn't stop people from still, trying to sign up or trying to work with you. It doesn't stop that. What does it cost us to stay general, right? The generalist. One example I like to use, right? If you have a problem and you're looking for a doctor, and I'm sure you've heard this before, you're looking for a doctor, are you, and your issue is you need someone to help you with your foot, right? So are you going to go to a generalist doctor, just a regular primary care first, right? Or are you going to be more inclined to look up for someone for podiatry? Right? You're going to be more inclined to look for someone with podiatry because they're going to specialize in the exact need that you want, right? And so one of the things that I think it's important, especially if you have a passion for a certain niche, is that when you do work with that population that you love, it really, really helps you prevent feeling overwhelmed, feeling burnout, retention, right? Because if you're just a generalist and you may not be all that great with trauma-informed care or all that great with DBT or anything like that, you're going to lose people anyway. So, the idea that you are just phenomenal at everything, while it sounds great, and I love that for you, right? There's something that sets you apart just a little bit more, right? Invisible marketing, right? You're going to kind of fall by the wayside because people are looking for things very, very specific. So if you have advertisements in different places and I can't go on the advertisement, if I can't go on, I won't name names, but if I can't go on a certain site and type in depression, 12-year-olds, something, you're not going to pop up, right? Um, and then there's some ethical risks in stretching beyond your scope. And I think someone said that they want to jump into private practice. What I hear a lot is there's a lot of scarcity when people start their practice. It's the fear that they won't have enough clients. It's a fear that they won't have enough money, a fear that they won't have enough income, right? And so you're already kind of setting your business up in a scarcity mindset. You're already setting your business up to be to settle. That's the I was trying to clean it up, but you're settling. because you have an expertise in something. I feel like people in our profession, and if there's other healthcare professions, I'm sure it still relates. People in our profession go into this business because we needed us a me, right? I needed me a me. I needed someone to hold my hand during that time of my life to really help me navigate what I was going through. So there is something that brought you to this field that you may be overlooking as a specialty. I think someone mentioned not even knowing what to niche. That's where you start looking. You start looking at why. Why did I even get into this profession? What even made me want to help and pour into someone else? 'Cause that's what you're doing. You're pouring into someone else. Um,
Oh, Micah, can I interrupt real quick?
Absolutely.
Awesome. This is an interesting one from Allison. She's saying that she's on a marketing team for a therapy group with 60 plus therapists, and they each have their own specific niche. Any tips on how to pitch that to others? How do you do that when
So with group practices, and we'll get to this slide, but I'm gonna go jump a little ahead. But with group practice, sometimes the group practice, it doesn't have to be a zillion one niche for the group practice, right? Sometimes the group practice can be what is the group practice's vibe? What is the group practice's energy like? So when I started my group practice, I marketed the energy of my practice. So it was the tagline was a creative and high energy center for all, right? And so when you came in, and you can probably guess the population I work with, but when people came in, they thought they were in Disney World, right? So we had cotton candy machines, we have popcorn machines, we have bubbles, we have LED lights, we have all kinds of different things in all the different rooms. And some of the adult rooms are different. But when you came in for the energy, not necessarily what the niche of the individual clinician was. So we may have a clinician that does DBT or that works with transitioning college students. But when you came, you knew the energy in each room would be a creative energy, whether it be the adult room would have a pool table or something like that. So you can also niche the energy of the group. Does that make sense? You can also niche the vibe, the comfort. It could be a warm center. It could be an empathetic center. So that's how you kind of can niche the actual group without having to niche them individually. And
yeah.
then if you want to sell the individual niching within the website and within each individual clinician, that's when you niche them down individually. And sometimes I give all mine, you can look at my website, I give my clinicians nicknames. So before you even click on their bio, they have a nickname that draws you in to figure out what their niche is.
That's awesome. Thanks for that.
So why does it feel hard to niche? And some of you guys said all this already, but I like working with lots of people. What if I change my mind later? What if I lose referrals? I don't want to be seen as less capable. So the new mindset that I would suggest for that would be you don't have to have it all figured out to be clear. Growth and clarity can coexist. So for the newbies too, I want you to know and feel comfort in it's called growing a business for a reason, right? So I started my business with folding chairs that I got from my parents' church. I had an end table and a plant that I stole from my parents' business. Was that going to be my office space? No. But did it get me started with the 10 clients I had at the time for the 2 weeks while I was waiting on furniture? Yes. So it's called growing a business for a reason. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to always be the same year after year. You may find that your niche narrows down even more as you go along. Or you may find that you don't like it and have to rebrand. That's okay. That's okay. Okay. So I wanted to put this little mini icebreaker in here for a reason, right? Because when you popped on, you saw Legos, right? You saw my background, you saw all these different things. I'm ready to hear some assumptions. What population do you think I work with? What do you think my group practice is all about? I kind of gave you a little bit about it, what it's all about, but I want to hear what your assumptions were when you saw that first slide.
Yep, Vanessa nailed it. And so did Amy. They're saying kids.
Kids, right? Because a part of niching doesn't have to always start with marketing. Niching can literally start with you. Before I even went into solo practice to then group practice, I literally was on Facebook mainly, right? And I would advertise things about my son. I would put our crazy interactions. I would show myself at like jumpy houses, and I'm a big kid, okay, right? So you're looking at the back, right? You see Gizmo, you see Gremlins, you see Jim, who's old enough to remember Jim. You see the Fraggle Rocks, I'm old, right? You see Jim Henson, you see all these different things, right? So I don't have to tell you who I work with for you to kind of know what my energy is. And if nothing else, you know I'm a big kid. You know I have some sort of relationship with children, right? So niching can actually start before you even start your business. And the reason why I know this to be true, because as soon as I started my business, the referrals from people I knew rolled in. Now, I know you see people posting like memes and things like your family doesn't support you or they don't share your stuff or like your stuff. As a therapist, when they need you or when they have someone that needs you, they're going to message you and they're going to know that you specialize in certain things just based off of the energy alone that you may exude on your social media pages, based on the energy alone that you show during family Thanksgiving dinner, right? So your marketing doesn't have to necessarily start when you start your business. It's already started beforehand. Um, so let's see. Let me make sure I follow the slides because I can get a little off task. So think about it. What do you naturally talk about or post online? What lights you up in everyday life? Who are the people that already come to you for support? You were already someone's therapist, right? What was the main topics they came to you for? I know, Sue, I know you're really good at X, Y, and Z. Can you help me process? Da, da, da. You already have an idea about what you've been good at and how people see you. So those that are not sure about what's a niche, kind of start jotting some things down about that. Before I move on, do we have any questions?
Nothing new.
Nothing.
Yeah, just folks weighing in. But you can absolutely keep going. I'll
Okay.
interrupt.
All right. Niching is often the process of remembering and refining what's already true about you, right? So if you're into trauma, EMDR, if we talked about kind of needing you a you, there is something that you may have went through. If you're into trauma or if you've done EMDR, you may have done EMDR yourself first, right? So it's like sharing your experiences, and this is the marketing before the actual marketing. This is just getting people used to who you are, right? The identity behind the niche. Ask yourself, what communities am I a part of? What lived experiences shaped me? What's the work that lights me up even on hard days? That's a good question to ask because if there are going to be days, especially if you're new, where you're going to try to do and see 8 clients a day, 8, 9, 10 clients a day. Now, if you've niched down and you're flowing with the people that you love to work with, those 8 clients will be easy. It'll flow and you'll leave exhilarated, right? But when you start throwing in the scarcity mindset and you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, you'll be burnt out by the third client, guaranteed, right? Because what niching does is it allows you to do the work that you love to do effortlessly. Um, and your humanity is part of your clinical identity and your niche too. So if you look on on our my website and all that, you'll see kind of what we do, how we ally, what we believe in, what our mission is. There's no questions about who we are as a business, right? So that also kind of eliminates a lot of different issues that you may have, when you don't.
Micah,
Yes.
Shamika is saying if you could, as you go, maybe throw in some tips for those folks who don't love social media.
Okay. I throw it in there now, Shamika. Um, and honestly, Shamika, I'm not really on social media. That was my personal page I was posting on. Back in the day. I'm not really doing that much now, but if you don't love social media, it's still your vibe in person, right? So if you go to a birthday party and you're the fun auntie or the fun friend or whoever, if you go to a night out with your friends, what are you the expert at? What do they know you're good at helping with? Do you help your friends with dating? Do you help your friends with their kids? Do you help your friends, identify that they need to go work on their trauma and they should go see someone? So sometimes it's not always just social media. It can literally just be who you are as a person in general. Even when you go to the doctor's office, if you've had the same PCP or the same dentist forever, if they love your energy, again, your energy could also be your niche, right? If they love your energy, they're going to be ecstatic to refer people to you, Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
I think I saw another question pop up. Do you have anything else?
Let's see. Let's see. Um, Elizabeth concurred with Shamika. So we had another person saying,
Okay.
I'm not totally into social media. But to your point, Micah, it's really just about kind of showing up with that energy, no matter where you are,
Yeah,
what channel, what platform, in person, online. It's the energy and being consistent.
absolutely. So your niche isn't just who, it's how, right? And we talked a little bit about your energy and how you bring that to your session. Um, One thing that I love, I was thinking about, I don't know if anybody watches the Drew Barrymore show. Um, and I love her. But even though we know Drew Barrymore from Never Been Kissed, we know Drew Barrymore from E.T., we know Drew Barrymore from a host of movies. What do we think about now when we think about Barrymore? And it's actually excellent marketing. We know Drew Barrymore as the no shoes, no socks, crisscross applesauce on the couch, leaned in, invading your personal space a little bit, maybe. Soft-spoken, empathetic person, right? And so we're not saying we don't know who our guests will be every day, but we know that on this show, if I want to see a kind, sweet, nurturing woman crisscross applesauce on the couch, I know that Drew Barrymore is going to offer that, right? So your energy that you bring into the room, the way you connect, the creativity you lean into in your sessions, the softness, the fire, the structure, the flexibility, all that matters in niching. And for some of you that may feel like you're not ready to decide, that's where you can start. You can start with just your energy. You can just start with how you show up in a session, really making sure you highlight that. Um, it could be your tone. We talked about that. It could be modalities. Someone mentioned EMDR. We were very big on like creative play. So we have arts and crafts galore. We have, games everywhere and all that stuff. So we were big on making sure that when the kids would come, that it was a high energy, fun place to come. Even though we're doing some really meaningful work, they didn't feel like they were just going to a regular therapy session when they got there.
Hey, Mike.
The vibe, yeah,
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say it's also really interesting that you bring up Drew Barrymore because I think that's also a terrific example of someone who really pivoted her brand.
yeah.
I'm probably like right in their same age range. And I remember when she was a wild child and she was unpredictable and people didn't know, whether she was coming or going. And she's really done a 180 there. Uh,
Mhm.
to shift that. So when these folks are weighing in our Q&A saying, well, I've been doing this, like, how do I pivot? How do I, rebrand myself? If we look around, and celebrities are a great example of it, they're
Right.
branding all the time. So it's absolutely something you can do. It just takes, a little thought, little work.
Yeah.
I will say too that we had someone weigh in back on the social media front saying, if you do use social media, which one do you feel is best to use to share your niche? And maybe that's dependent on where you live or who your audience is, etc. But do you have like a favorite platform, Micah?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like you don't need all of them, right? I think we got into this hustle culture where everyone was kind of really trying to keep up with the Joneses, and we had every single platform. I don't necessarily believe in that. I think that now when you can, right, and you can actually have a different niche on every single platform if you wanted to, depending on what you're trying to do. But I can't say that there is a one that is better than the other, right? It's all about how consistent will you be on the one you like. So if you like Facebook and you know you'll be consistent on Facebook, use Facebook. If you like Instagram better and you know you'll be consistent on Instagram, use Instagram. I don't really use Instagram anymore. I use it as social proof. I do believe in social proof because people are going to look for your business, right? So whether you just set up some pages on all of them and just kind of periodically have your advertisements on there, but for Instagram, I just use the stories to share like who I am as a person. So people get to know me in the stories, but you know what I do and the social proof on the actual wall. But I can't say that there's one that's better than the other. It depends on your mission. TikTok, if you like being creative and making videos, use TikTok. If you like just kind of posting your social proof, use Instagram and Facebook.
That's awesome. Another question came in from Janae. She's saying it's often said that we need to have specific, okay, I don't know what DX is. DXS.
Diagnosis?
Maybe that must be it in mind. So a specific diagnosis in mind when we're niching, but are you saying it's more about energy and vibe?
Well, that's a way. That's one way to do it, right? I'm going to always gear towards everybody. So there is one way to do it where if you're stuck and you can't decide right now, you can go with energy and vibe. But if you know that you want to work with a certain population, which I'll get to too, yes, it is good to have your target audience. You need to know the person that's your avatar. You should be able to tell me who your avatar is. You should be able to say it's this person, this age, this issue, right? So I absolutely agree with that. But I wanted to make sure that I kind of appealed to everybody because sometimes you don't really know, especially if you're new, you don't really know what you're good at yet.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
Um, Okay, so talk about your vibe and your creative process. I have a clinician that every time I go in her office, I don't know what I'm going to walk into. She is so creative. She works with the neurodivergent kids going through the middle school transition, right? Very specific. But she also is just known for her creativity. She'll have all types of clay sculptures and dangling dioramas, and it's mayhem when I go in there. But the children love it, and so she is just known for whenever they come to session, they know that they're going to do something different. And so that stays on their mind, that stays on the parents' mind, and the parents refer. She don't even have a her own advertisement page for marketing because she gets so many referrals just from word of mouth. So what does a strong niche do? It helps you attract the right clients. It helps build deep referral pipelines. We just talked about that. Your parents, your current clients, your coworkers, they're going to always be a amazing referral source for you. It's like you have mouthpieces all over. That's why I say marketing doesn't just start with actual marketing and social media and websites because you have mouthpieces already built in your life. Um, Strong niches help reduce burnout. We talked about that. It helps to increase retention and your outcomes. We talked about that. And it makes marketing much simpler and natural and it flows better. One of the reasons why I chose Legos, right? I chose this, I want to say ridiculous, but I did it for a reason. I chose this layout is because I wanted you to see that before I even started talking, you at least knew that I was work with kids or I had some sort of childlike wonder or I had some sort of big energy, right? And so that's what I mean by sometimes it doesn't even have to be you doing anything or saying anything. You who you are will speak before you do. All right, so here's some examples of like aligned niching, right? And this is goes back to actual having a diagnosis. So these are actually a few of these are some of my clinicians' actual niches, but grief support for young adults after parental loss, right? So if I'm someone looking during a difficult time in my life, and it's like, oh my gosh, that would speak to my soul, right? And I would be more inclined to pick you over someone that just says, I do grief work. Although that's still good, but it's like, but this actually happened to me. I'm a young adult that just lost my parents. How do I navigate life as a young adult? Does that make sense? Neurodivergent care for creative professionals. LGBTQIA plus teens navigating social anxiety. Couples therapy for first gen professionals. Anxiety support for healthcare workers, right? And that was huge for us after COVID. We had a lot of healthcare workers, therapists, doctors, nurses, dentists that came in after COVID happened. So real niches sound like real people with real problems.
These are so awesome, Micah. I love these examples. I okay, so I am not obviously a therapist. I work in marketing, but when I have sought out therapy in my life, I have gotten fairly granular with respect to what I wanted that person to be knowledgeable about. And generally they were sort of sweeping buckets, and so there were a number of folks that I could choose. These are so specific, which I love, but I wonder, do therapists ever worry, oh gosh, if I get too specific, I just won't have a wide enough audience, like I won't have enough business. So they cast sort of that wider net or make themselves more flexible, if you will, to ensure business continuity.
So one thing I tell, you're not stuck, right? You're not stuck with niching. And the good thing about this specific niching is you can pull back, like a camera lens, you can pull back a little bit. So for example, like for certain seasons, right, and certain times in the year, I have my clinicians, and this can be a tip that you guys can use for yourself or your practice. We have multiple bios, right? So you may have a bio that's specific niche and says young adults at parental loss. And we may say, okay, let's try to get 15, 20 people that meet this specific niche. Okay, then let's draw the camera lens out. And now let's just say we're going to do grief work, right? Because the goal was to get your baseline, was to get your kind of, and then once we reach that, we'll pull it out. Or we'll have specific things for the summer. It's like it could be LGBTQIA plus teens navigating the new school year, right? And necessarily have or LGBTQIA plus teens, period, right? Or it could be teens navigating social anxiety, teens. So you can always change up the bio. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And actually weighing in on this very thing, Ellie just dropped in a note in the Q&A and said that she technically just opened her practice yesterday. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
congratulations.
Ellie.
I have a little noise maker, but I'm not going to play it right now. But yep.
Well, first, congrats to Ellie, and amazing that she's joining us today because this is so spot on. She says that she has not listed herself on any directories yet, as she feels that her niche is too specific. She's targeting first generation American Caribbean BIPOC, heal their inner child, get rid of their inner critic, address fear and being scared, and it keeps you stuck. Is this too specific? She's struggling with paralysis of analysis.
Well,
And
I will say you gave me a lot, right?
that
So
is a lot,
you
yeah.
you had me when you had first generation um dealing with what, right? So you gave me a lot of different things, right? And the overarching things, I do a lot of inner child work too, is inner child work. Because if you're a first generation, you are dealing with a lot of your parents' traumas too, right? A lot of conditioned beliefs. So all those things will kind of fall under that umbrella of inner child work. So the paralysis is that there's so much that you're trying to do, but we already know that you're going to do all the other things. What's the bigger thing? And I actually want you to answer that.
Yeah, yeah, good call, Ellie, if you want to weigh in on that. And while Ellie's thinking, Carol also said, should we promote something that we are not skilled? Like, should we promote to groups that we're not skilled to work with, or only focus on the ones that we are skilled to work with?
Um, and I do want to go back to Ellie. And yes, you should be marketing on platforms once you get clarity in your message. But should we be? So no. So and I say no because you will get jammed up. So if you say that you work with that you do DBT, yes, we all learn DBT. Yes, we all know the skills for DBT. But if you just because you can do DBT, there's someone that loves DBT and is trained in DBT and is certified in DBT and has all these certifications. So I would say no because that would interfere. That would be where you have an issue with retention, right? Because if someone is looking for something very specific and you just kind of know, they're going to feel that.
Yep, that is great advice. Very good. And Ellie did just circle back saying that she's helping them discover who they are, chiseling away the parental trauma and to be okay with who they are and not feel guilty about it.
Okay, so why'd you give us all the other stuff, Ellie? That sounds about right to me.
Nice.
That sounds right to me. So just clean that sentence, that line up, and that would be where you niche. So here's the thing. So just for anyone else that may be feeling like that. So you start marketing that, right? So you can market that on there's different types of directories. So there's therapy for Black girls, there's Latina X therapy, there's um And I don't know, but I would look and see if there's first something with first generation therapy. I mean, because I have so many people that's why I had it as an example. I've had so many coaching clients that have actually wanted to go into that. So this is not something that people don't need. This is obviously a need. So you have to just find your people and don't limit yourself to directories, right? So you could also advertise in Facebook groups. You could also, when they have certain marketing days, advertise yourself in those marketing days. Um, if your social media would be helpful in this aspect because you could brand yourself as an expert on that. But it's all about dropping seeds everywhere you can.
Yep. I love it. Perfect.
Um, okay, so this is actual things that happen for my practice. So when new clinicians come in, whether it be an intern or a provisionally licensed clinician, sometimes it's a fully licensed clinician. Most of the time they come in as generalists. Most of the time they're not exactly sure what they want to focus on. I'm a group practice owner that is really big on self-care. I am really big on balance. Why? Because one of my goals when I started this practice was because I was a single mother that had a disabled mother and I was also a part-time caregiver. So it was very important to me to be able to offer the grace that the group practice that I was in did not offer me. So I'm very big on self-care, very big on work-life balance. So when my clinicians come in, I encourage them to start thinking about a niche. I don't require it. We kind of mold as we go along and have supervision and stuff like that. But I know that when they have that niche, that their quality of life is much better. I have a lot of part-timers too that have full-time jobs, and they always report that the group practice is their fun job, where they get relief, and that's a good feeling for me as a practice owner. So when they come in though, being generalists, we may get 5 to 8 leads a month. It's very slow. We fill them up from the overflow of the niche clinicians. We fill them up with the overflow from just the general uh, overarching thing of children and teenagers that we have the reputation for. A lot of times it's not a direct call for this person or this person because they don't have a specific niche. So we get very, very few leads with them. They usually end up having a mixed fit of clients, which is okay in the beginning because they want to work, they may need experience, they may be an intern, they may need the mixed fit of clinicians. I'm just giving you kind of a understanding. Um, Now, they go too long without niche and they usually feel exhausted, and we have to kind of regroup and start kind of narrowing things down and deciding how we're going to move forward. And for them, it's very broad marketing. They usually have no social media presence. They usually have no way they don't have a pitch. They have no pitch when they're going out in public. They have nothing to really share because they don't really know they're uncomfortable with where they are and how to market themselves and how to sell themselves. Our niche therapists, effortless. A lot of times, like I said, I have the one that's very creative that does a neurodivergent work in the creative way. Doesn't even have a page. She gets all her referrals in, like she stays full. She has a waiting list. She stays full. We have another one that works with children, young children as young as 3. She stays full because she's very niche down. They're aligned. They feel aligned. They have sticky clients. What's a sticky client? It means the client sticks and stays. These kids stay with us for a long time, and refer all their friends in the community. Their energy and they have clarity. They feel confident in who they are. There's a lower chance of imposter syndrome. There's more confidence in their supervision, in the way they talk, and how confident they feel. I am a teaching practice. And what that means is I like to see people move on. I like to see people leave from my practice with a niche, with a reputation, if you will, and take it and go do their own thing, right? So I'm more of like I like to help people plant because I believe in stretching my arms as far as I can and then having other arms to reach out to as well, right? And then they have specific referrals. So we have great relationships with DJJ, with DFACs, with foster care, with churches, with dentistries, with primary care physicians, psychiatry, schools, daycares, because we're very clear in what our niche is.
I love it. Hey, quick question from Patricia. She's saying how much, if any, self-disclosure is appropriate or helpful in marketing your niche. For example, my experience as a caregiver in offering support for caregiver anxiety.
I would feel so warm and comforted knowing that I'm sitting with someone that knows what I'm going through.
Okay, cool. So you would say then it's absolutely appropriate to
Yeah,
bring,
I think in school we're taught, Carrie, in school we're taught to basically just kind of like be very, just kind of sit back. You don't know anything about me. I don't share anything about myself. I'm very private, and I don't believe that will work in 2025. That's not going to work, right? Because one, social media has changed the way we look at therapy forever. Um, and people want to see they want to see the humanness in you. They want to see that you're a real person. So obviously we're not saying disclose what happened to the person, the every hardship, but if you're comfortable with it and you're at a place where you've healed from it and it would benefit that moment in the session, absolutely. But yes, if you're a caregiver yourself and you're going to appeal to caregivers, I absolutely think that should be the primary thing you market.
yeah, I love that. And I have a question for
Yeah.
you. There was some time, some years back where it felt to me that when I was in therapy, the therapist was not an open book and they weren't really meant to share anything personal about their own lives. Like it was a very different kind of therapy than what I'm seeing today, where it seems to me far more relatable. Like I've actually had my therapist share personal stories about their life to relate better to me. So it's been really interesting to see that shift over
Yeah.
the years. So you're seeing that too, and that must be like a new school of thought. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. I mean, like, honestly, like when I started working, the kids would, I have a little tent in one of in the playrooms, and the kids would take pictures in the tent and post it on Snapchat. Did not know they were doing that, right? And other kids would come in and be like, "Oh my God, there's the tent." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "That's the tent that was on Snapchat." I'm like, "What?" So it's like, if they want to find out, people will find out. Like, if they want to find out who you are, Carrie, who you are, whomever, as a therapist, all they gotta do is Google you. All they gotta do is type your name in, right? If they really want to find out. So it's harmless to share something that would actually benefit them in therapy session.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, the thing too is like, I will Google all kinds of people. I won't just go to LinkedIn. I'll just do a basic Google search. And then you pull up results that will go, it'll go cross platform, what have you,
Hmm.
across personal sites and all the rest of it. And for me, as the person conducting that search, I've found it's far easier if they do remain fairly consistent with respect to their positioning, because otherwise, I have oftentimes thought, okay, wait, is that the same therapist? Because over there they were talking about this, and over here they're talking about that. So it's almost beneficial to have that consistency.
Right.
Do you agree with that, or do you feel like no, you can have some flexibility there?
It depends, and that depends on where you are in your career, right? So when I say like you could have different niches on all the platforms, it would solely be based on like like TikTok is like a spam. Like you're not, I'm not a therapist on social media like that, right? But if on the Instagram, I am. So that's what I mean by that. If you want to advertise, like say you want to advertise your coaching business more because you're getting more hits on Facebook, then advertise your coaching. And that's kind of what I do. So I advertise more coaching on Facebook, right? That's more of where a lot of my followers are. And then I advertise like my business. I have a separate business page for that. So that's what I mean by like cross niching. It's not necessarily like I have different niches for everything. I have different types of pages.
Yes, that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense to
Yeah.
me. I'm just going to give you a quick time check. So we've got 15 minutes
Okay.
to
Let me
keep
speed
going.
through these last couple of ones
Well,
I
I was
have.
going to say, because we have a couple more questions, but we can save them if you want to keep going.
Yeah, let's save them. Let me just make sure I get, yeah, because we're almost done. All
Perfect.
right, so
Perfect.
your niching message for those that are struggling a little bit, try this formula. I help, and if you want to do it now and drop it in the chat, I'd love to hear some of them. I help, and then name that specific group. Struggling with, name that challenge so they can, and name that desired outcome, right? So this is one I just did a couple of months ago. I help anxious teen girls build confidence and learn emotional regulation skills through creativity and connection. So I'm gonna leave that up for a second and let y'all kind of jot down your first thoughts. I really want to hear from Ellie. Now that I know your name, I'm gonna pick on you.
I love it. People are thinking, they're typing,
Thinking.
they're thinking.
Let me just go ahead and see what I have after this. Okay, yeah, we're almost done. Any other questions come in that I can answer while they're thinking?
Ellie wrote in and said she's very stuck. But Melinda just said, I help women experiencing sexual trauma to heal and find their voice.
Do you see how that would pull somebody in that's looking for just a glimmer of hope? That's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
And and just even saying that, right? Do you see how now your marketing can gear towards that? Your pictures can gear towards that. Your visuals, you can even see the colors of that formula. No?
Yep. Oh, yeah. And Elizabeth wrote in and said, I work with neurodivergent adult clients struggling with trauma, grief, depression, and anxiety. And then she asked, is that too broad or should it be refined?
I help neurodiverse. It's not too broad, but what's the desired outcome?
I mean, for me, what I'm taking away from that is I just read neurodivergent and then
Yeah.
I can either say, okay, that's me
Yeah.
or that's not me. And once I self-select and say, yes, I'm neurodivergent, then I go on to, okay, trauma, grief, depression, and anxiety is pretty you know, all
It's
encompassing.
all inclusive. Yeah. So you wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily, yeah. So I would, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, you can probably even narrow how you help the specific challenge. You can probably narrow that down. Because the actual focus is that you're helping them with the neurodivergence, with skills, with different hacks. You know what I'm trying to say? Like you're helping them with different things to kind of work with um, as a neurokind professional.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I definitely think at least she's targeting the right folks up front
Absolutely.
and sort of casting that net there because I think if she were just to stick with trauma, grief, with one of those things, they might say, well, I haven't had trauma, but I'm anxious, or I'm
Yeah.
not depressed, but I'm dealing with grief. So,
It
I
can be
mean,
life challenges, right? Something along the line. I help neurodivergent
yeah,
people struggling with various life challenges so they can function and excel in their something something.
yep, yeah, good call.
So common myths about niching. People say, I'll get bored. You might, right? But you could also grow within your niche. Change it up. I started off working with small children, and honestly, it kind of grew as my son grew. I'm not gonna lie. And then I went to the middle school transition because my son's in middle school right now, right? And it may change to high school when he goes to high school. So you can grow within your niche. I'll lose money. No, you'll attract more aligned clients. So like I said, I am very big on your money story because I do a lot of inner child healing work. And actually, identifying your money story and healing that will prevent some of these scarcity mindset thoughts, right? Because you won't lose money, but you'll have to learn how to find your people. It's not about losing money, it's about finding your ideal client. Does that make sense? I'm too new. You won't have enough clarity to start. I'm too new is a fear. The reality is you have enough clarity to at least start, and that goes back to your why. That goes back to why did you even start? So your niche is your legacy. Niching isn't a sales strategy. It's how you show up in integrity. It's how you serve deeply. It's how you make your message clear, and it's how you stay in the field for a long time. Like I said, I work with kids, but I also do inner child work. So it's still all along the same things, but it's allowed me to take myself out of the therapy realm, and now I'm in a different area where I do a lot of speaking engagements and coaching and corporate contracts and all that good stuff. All right, so this is the recap and some takeaways, and then we'll just answer some questions. Niching is clarity, not limitation. Your niche already lives in you. It reduces burnout and increases impact. You can evolve, but you must start. You are already enough to define who you are here for. Right.
I love it. That's so okay. Should we get into a couple more
Yeah.
questions? Brilliant. So Carly just weighed in again with her finding sort of her positioning, and she said she helps couples struggling with communication issues so that they can find peace in their relationship. Is that too general or does that feel spot on?
That's perfect because what do you hear one of the spouses say? They always say, I just want peace. I just want harmony, right? So if I was to go read that, I would say, okay, boom, right? That may be perfect for someone that's just like, all I want is peace.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, Lisa has a question. How do you find groups, local events, and podcasts to share with your niche?
Perfect. And thank you for mentioning podcasts. I totally missed that. Um, Honestly, there are podcast groups that are literally like fishing for guests. So like literally when mainly Facebook, right? So if you go on Facebook and you type in podcast guests, a zillion podcast groups will pop up looking for guests. Therapy groups. If there's other types of healthcare professionals in here, go to groups that are specific to your profession. But Facebook groups, you literally just type it in and it pops up. And then you'll know the ones that are the most popular because they'll have the most group members. But yeah, that is your best bet as far as finding like um healthcare fairs and all those different types of things. That is really going to be depending on you kind of like surfing the web, like looking on what's it called? The event, what's the event thing on online? I forgot what it's called.
Oh, like Eventbrite?
Eventbrite, like look on Eventbrites. Look on
Yeah.
Eventbrites. Meetup.com sometimes has things. You can do a hashtag community events in San Francisco. And you can subscribe to that hashtag on TikTok, on Instagram, and all that. And your feed will start showing you those things and those advertisements. So if you want to have like a broader, a little bit more effortless way to find things, follow hashtags.
That's a great call out. I do add hashtags to all of my posts for that very reason.
Yeah,
Cool. Okay, Ellie circled back around with us and she wanted to tell you her positioning statement.
let's hear it, Ellie.
Yeah, she says she helps first generation Americans struggling to shed their parents' trauma so that they can be free from it. Now,
Woo!
I think that's pretty cool, but
That's good.
she has a valid concern. And
That's
she
good.
said, what if they don't know they're carrying their parents' trauma? Like, what happens if you're trying to target someone and they don't even know what their issue is, but it's that?
So that's when the paralysis is going to come in for you, Ellie, right? Because you are trying to find a very specific, because the reality is you're going to help them find it, right? Because if we live past 15, we all have trauma. We all have something, right? And so if we're talking about first generation, there is something, whether it doesn't have to be their parents' stuff, it could be the way society has treated them. That's a trauma, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be their parents, but if you want to specifically target people that have trauma from their parents, that is a good niche as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Thank you for that. I was just reading something. We've had a couple of questions. So one question was about insurance and whether you specifically take it. And then this just came in. Any suggestions or input if you have a niche but you don't take insurance? I live in a rural area and would like to get off panels.
How rural? Like what? Like Texas? And there's like how rural? What
Yeah.
state? What state? I need to know the state.
All right, Lisa, let us know what state you're in. But I guess circling back is, do you have a position on insurance, v no insurance?
So again, it's about authenticity, right? So I am big on taking Medicaid because when I had my son, I was on Medicaid. So I'm going to always take Medicaid and help undeserved populations because that was what I needed when I was going through what I went through. So I want to make sure that children can have access to health care, single mothers can have access to health care. So I always take Medicaid. So no, my positioning on insurance versus not insurance, I'm all for whatever. If you do private pay, which we have a lot of private pay as well. If you do private pay, it's going to be in the numbers, like making sure you understand your numbers, and you're going to have to make sure that you really do invest in marketing. It can be absolutely done. I do recommend, this is my friend's group. Private Pay for Therapists on Facebook is a great group to go into if you're private pay. But for the question about being in a rural area, you can see everybody in that entire state. And if you want in that entire state, so it really boils down to marketing. I think niching is very, very good for private pay because people will pay top dollar if they know you can help them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Good call out. Janae had a question. How do you encourage practice owners to reach out to local offices and become involved in the community to gain referrals?
Um, so you can actually host like a coffee and chat at your office and invite, I mean, just kind of like, I hate cold emailing, but it only works when you're doing community events like having like little parties at your office. Otherwise, I'm not really a fan of cold contact. But yes, you can invite different group practices to your practice. You can go to I have like you can offer like a group practice. I have group practice luncheons with different group practice owners once a month. Um, Not even to build referral. I do it to build relationships. The referrals come naturally.
Okay. Great. We had Lisa circled back with respect to how rural is she? She's in Tennessee, and then
Oh,
Elizabeth said, I'm in a rural area as well. I'm in Yuma, Arizona.
okay. Okay. So niching for that, right? It obviously people are looking for clinicians. So I would be very heavy on ensuring that you provide telehealth and really marketing the benefits of telehealth in your niching. That way you can reach far and wide in
Yeah,
Tennessee and in Arizona.
yeah. Good advice. Okay, this is interesting. Casey is saying, I have ADHD, and the thought of focusing on the same thing for years scares me. I love the dopamine boost I get when there's something new to focus on. Do you find, is there, I mean, we're kind of saying the opposite, but could there be burnout from just niching down and kind of focusing on that one topic for too long?
And then that's when you would focus on your energy and your vibe and what you bring into the session. So that's why I was trying to get different options. You would benefit from that. I have clinicians that are neurodivergent that also struggle with focusing on one thing, and they get excited about like I could say they could have 50 group ideas, and I'm like, we're gonna have to focus on one. But their energy that they bring to it, the creativity that they bring to it, I think it's okay because if you work with a specific population at least, the rest of it will be fine.
Okay, perfect. When you were talking about Facebook groups, Elizabeth asked if you could name a couple that might be useful to this audience.
So for the private pay people, the private pay therapist is a good group. Um, and for online therapists, the online therapist group with Dr. Amber Lida is a good group. Um, Let me see. Hold on. Give my people shout outs here. Um, and I think for online therapist group, private pay therapist, the balanced private practice is a good group. Um, the group practice exchange is a good group if they're still open. They had archived it at one point. I'm not sure if it's still open, but that's a good group as well. But the group practice exchange has a platform off, and that off the Facebook group. They have their own standalone website and they have their own standalone system. And you can take classes, webinars. Matter of fact, Maureen just did it. Didn't she just do it? She just did a webinar.
You
So
did with us.
Yeah, Maureen just did a webinar. So she has a group practice exchange. So look into that. She has all types of things that you
Yeah,
can do there.
very good call out. And I know we're at the top of the hour. One last question because it's about you, Micah. Do you offer business coaching?
I absolutely do. No, it's like ding. So I do. Yes, I do. I offer business coaching, and if you had a question and you want to ask me, you can still email me because I still want to make sure that I help you. I'm a big energy person. People call me a little woo-woo, but I really believe in energy exchange. So monetarily, like if you have a question, just send me the question. But this is my website for coaching. I have books, I have workbooks, I have all types of things on rebuildingtheglowwithin.com. This is my practice page just so you can kind of see how we kind of maneuver things. I haven't updated in a while, so don't judge us. But with a child's heart, bhc.com. And then my IG, follow me, and I will follow you back today at Micah Miller. And then this is the QR code, and that can just kind of give you everything. It just gives you everything.
I love how you put your picture in the center of the QR code. You have given me a new idea.
Well, I'm a Leo, so that's what we do.
Well, with that, I am going to just thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
You are an excellent speaker and storyteller, and I have learned a lot from today's session. I'm guessing that everybody who joined us did too, and everyone stayed on for the duration. That's always a good signal. So, Micah, thank you. For those folks still on the call, just a reminder, I'll be sending a recording link out later today, along with the slides, if Micah's okay sharing
Yeah,
them.
go for it.
So you will have everything you need to both connect with Micah if you're so inclined, or revisit the material we covered today. Big thanks to everyone who joined us. Again, a round of quiet applause for Micah since everyone's muted, but we loved it. Thanks for joining, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.